Hey there, everybody. Welcome back to the Gamerpreneur Podcast. I'm your host, Dr. Bradford Carlton. Today I have a very special guest with us. We have Dids, aka Eric. How's it going, Dids?
Going well. Thank you so much for having me on. Yeah, that's whatever works.
All right. So, it's not quite a beautiful sunny day in Las Vegas today, but how about you? Where are you at?
A very cold winter afternoon in Wisconsin.
Oh, I'm so sorry.
That's all right.
Hey, when was the last time you saw above zero?
It's actually been above zero for a while, thank God. But we just got dumped, I think, with I want to say like 8 to 12 inches of snow in the last couple days. So it's been something.
I can't say I miss it. I lived in Ohio for 9 years. Get that lake effect right off of there. Everything is just, it's not even white. It just turns brown like immediately somehow.
Yep. Yeah, it's funny because you get the fun pre-happiness of like, oh, a white Christmas and all this jazz, and then once Christmas ends, it just starts to get gray and slushy.
Yeah, look for all right, 4 months of this. All right, so Eric, why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself?
Most definitely. So I'm the Chief Creative Officer of Urban Misfit Ventures. We are Urban Misfit Ventures is essentially the umbrella company that also houses MK Misfits, which is our events company as well. That can expand in the future, but for now we have those two main focuses. We're really diving deep into brand accelerator programs. We're diving deep into video agency work for more commercial side companies as well, and then having some really cool exclusive events that really speak to who we are and what values we have, both personally within the company and professionally as core values for the company.
Very cool. Now, there's a lot to unpack there, and we'll get to it all real soon here. But I always start every interview with one question. I'm going to ask you the same question I ask everybody else. And it's kind of a fun question just to get off on a nice little footing here. Mm-hmm. On a scale of 1 to 10, 10 being high, how weird are you, Eric?
32.
And why is that?
I don't know. I feel like everything that I've done in life has been kind of different. I was a very good student growing up through high school, and I was able to kind of smile my way through high school, get, pretty high grades, B's, A's, but then, college came around and I didn't really know what I wanted to do. Didn't have any real, passion, drive. I knew I wanted to be like creative, but I didn't know, I remember going to my advisor at my college, and I asked him, I said, what classes teach After Effects? And that, that's what I wanted to know. And he's like, I don't know what that is. And I don't know if any classes here do. And I'm just like, all right, well, let's do some gen eds and I'll think about it later. So I did a couple years graphic design major stuff, and then chose to drop out and, do a couple jobs here and there, and then completely jump off the wagon and start a company. So, I feel like everything I've kind of done to this point has been very weird, but very me. And that's what I like.
That's wonderful, though. You never know where life is going to take you. And I mean, that just goes to show what they're really teaching in schools, right? Not stuff you're actually going to use.
Yeah. There's arguments to be made one way or another there. So.
I personally really loved the day I learned parallelograms in school, because it really helps me, when parallelogram season comes along instead of taxes, right?
I mean, it's a great conversation starter, just how about that parallelogram, right? I mean, it just really is a great way to just dive right into those conversations.
So on that note, parallelograms, let's talk about you as a gamer first. I want to know what your gaming cred is, and then we'll kind of get into your business and what you do.
Yeah.
So when did you first start playing?
When I was a wee lad, I grew up with Super Metroid and Super Mario Kart. Those were my two games. Parents try to, keep the gaming under wraps when I was, 4 to 10-ish. So, it came out on the weekends during the nighttime after dinner, and we would play some, Super Metroid, Super Mario Kart, something like that. And grew into, still today, I just was playing a couple games of Heroes of the Storm earlier, was playing some chess a little bit earlier. So I'm very diverse, but yeah, I think it just over time developed into something where I just began to play more and more video games because I didn't really have much of a social life in person. In high school, I was kind of the outcast and neither here nor there, but I looked to video games to kind of give me that satisfaction. So whether it was, RuneScape or World of Warcraft, that social aspect really drew me into continuing to play video games, and then just kept loving to play the games and loving the game as a whole, you know, whether that was through City Skylines, you know, I've dumped 400 or 500 hours into that game, or Roller Coaster Tycoon, you know, dumped hundreds of hours into that game. There's always something cool to look for.
You know, personally, I think Roller Coaster Tycoon 1 was the best, and I've
I
played
like 2.
all
I like
of them.
2.
You know, was 2 the one where you couldn't have the admission fee and the ticket prices? Was that where they introduced that? Because that
But
took it
now
away from me.
There's an open source version, if you will, called OpenRCT2, and it allows you into all of that backend stuff. So it completely changes the experience and makes it just a million times better. It's fantastic.
I have to figure out where that is now.
Yeah,
I will go back and review it. Because I loved number 1. 1 was the bomb, and then 2 was just like, it was so close. It was so close. They just
I
here and there. And
I recently played through a lot of 1. I'm kind of going through all the scenarios through each game, because OpenRCT2, if you basically link the directory to your other installs, it'll like add it all to it. And I'm going through all of the older ones. And I started with 1, obviously, and like the first thing that struck me is like I didn't realize back then that every part gave you, you know, junior roller coaster, swinging ship, you know, like there's like 5 to 8 basic rides that really don't give you a whole lot of freedom. You know, like you got the steel roller coaster, you're like, oh sweet, I can do vertical loops and stuff like that. But that was kind of as exciting as it got during the scenarios themselves. But then I like 2 because it kind of really opened things up and really added a lot more, so that you had more. It wasn't just building a different steel roller coaster every time. You kind of had some variety into how you're going to.
Sure. Oh man, we could probably talk for hours on that. But
oh yes, most definitely.
One of my favorite games growing up. I was never really a PC gamer, but that was it. What would you say your favorite game of all time is, though? So you obviously been playing a long time.
Mm-hmm. That's a good point, and that's one that I don't know if I ever really have had an answer. I'm a very situational person when it comes to like favorite game. You know, I could be dumping hundreds of hours into trying to speedrun Super Metroid, and that's something that I've done. So then I would say, you know, Super Metroid, and now I've been dumping a lot of time in Heroes of the Storm, although, you know, I'm getting stuck in some unfortunate teams in rank play, but you know, I would say that that's probably where I'm spending the most time now. But probably all time, I'll give 2 answers. I'll give Super Metroid as one, just for the nostalgia factor, memories of it, you know, the ability to make a game so fantastic that still to this day, like, it has game breaking bugs, but nothing that like really ruins the game. Like, if you're gonna do those things, you're gonna do them, but you know, like the ability to I'm not sure how familiar you are with Super Metroid, but mock ball, wall jumping, you know, all of those things that I can't honestly say that they were like built into the game as features that I anticipated, but now are mainstays for people that play the game and play it at a high level. And then I would say the other one is definitely gotta be City Skylines. Just the customizability, the way that you can just build a city different every time. Just something that obviously, you know, like I said, I stuck 300, 400, 500 hours into. So
I have to say, I love gamers. And the reason is, like, I can have a conversation with someone and it'll start off like a little bit stiff. As soon as you start talking games and what you enjoy, you can just see people's faces light up. And that happened to you. You start talking about the things you played. And, you know, we started off talking a little bit about your past and your childhood, which was, we'll admit, mine was a little depressing as well. I was pretty lonely. I had no friends growing up. And I think a lot of gamers were like that. It might have just been our personality type, and gaming was our escape. But to be able to find that joy and get be able to create a future out of it is just incredible.
Right.
So how exactly have you transitioned your love of gaming into you know, what you do now?
Yeah, that's a good one. I think really it started by, you know, playing video games, and then seeing my first introduction to, like, you know, the media side of it was through Sark, Hutch, and C. Nanners, through Machinima way back in the day, through the Call of Duty commentaries and that sort of thing. And I was watching that, I'm like, I can do that too. Because, you know, back then it was literally as bare bones as I'm going to record a game that I go, you know, 32 and 2 in, and then I'm going to record myself talking over it. And that was really, you know, it was so rudimentary. It was very simple. And I'm like, I can do that. What I didn't know at the time was that I didn't, you know, have any inflection on my words. I didn't have any editing skills. I didn't have anything to talk about, and it just fell flat, you know. And I was like, okay, well, maybe that's not it. And it was so funny how, like, adamant I was, like, this is it. I'm going to be the Call of Duty commentator. I'm going to join Machinima, and, you know, because that was really the only partnership program back then. So I was so excited to try it. Didn't work out. So then time passes. I bought a camera, Canon T3i, which is most people's first cameras, it seems, but started making videos with that and using that as a little bit of a higher quality camera and stuff. And eventually got to the point where I'm looking at this camera, holding this camera. I'm like, it takes pictures too. I bought it, and I remember Googling Nikon or Canon, which one is better video. And a lot of people are saying, Canon's better, and that's a whole nother argument. But I did, and I'm like, okay, this takes pictures too. So I'm looking around, what do I have? What do I have? I have this biology field. Let's take a picture of that. I have this Logitech keyboard. Let's take a picture of that. And eventually, I'm starting to take these pictures. I'm starting to get better at it. And then I'm starting to figure out, okay, well, let's be smart about this. If I'm, have all these things in my rooms, in my room, they have Twitter accounts as well. Let me start tagging these accounts. And then kind of one thing led to another. And as I used taking those photos of those products as a creative outlet, I was then garnering attention from these companies for which I was taking these photos of. And it was really a cool thing because it was never me reaching out and, asking for this or wanting that. It was very much using what I had at my disposal to grow the craft, post the progress online, and see what was going to happen. And I had absolutely no intent of garnering any attention from any of these companies. It was just absolutely something to grow my craft with. But then post a picture of a keyboard of Logitech's. They're in my DMs. Hey, let's work together. Okay, sweet. Stuff like that. So then it got to the point where I was starting to think about it from a business side. Okay, well, now let's start to leverage some of this. So I'm getting better.
Before you go on, can I ask, how long did that process take? So you said you fell flat on your face, and then you started taking pictures and so from when you started doing the tagging and really kind of making more about a business.
I would say that the actual photography learning process was probably about 9 months, but the YouTube began, when was Machinima big back then? 2013, 2014, give or take maybe. But yeah, so there was definitely some breaks there, and it was kind of one of those things where I did a block of trying YouTube, and then I did a block of trying Twitch, and then I did another block of trying YouTube. I kind of went back and forth between the two, and then eventually it became the whole camera thing, media thing, photography thing. But that process, I would say, is probably about 9 months in length.
Okay, so it wasn't just one thing that blew up. It was kind of, you built the foundation first, and then when you tried this new thing, that's what really made it go.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, cool. Now, so how did you go from getting, I guess, sponsors to being a creative director?
Yeah, so I was thinking, how can I leverage this? So I'm looking around, I would be very cognizant as to, who I'm following on social media and what I'm posting on social media. So I would never cuss on social media. I would be very clean, very, practical, very formal. And then I'm following people that do these things. And, they always say, don't talk to the guy giving the speech, talk to the guy organizing the speech. So I'm looking through all these connections, and I'm just like, who do I know, or who am I following that maybe I can try and help out? Very much a give, then see what happens from it sort of philosophy. So I messaged somebody from MLG. There was an event in Columbus, Ohio, near, by you, probably a little bit closer than where I am.
Yeah.
So I'm, all the way in Milwaukee area, and I'm like, I will drive down, I will buy myself a hotel. Could you just get me a media pass? And the response was, yeah, it's the Gears of War tournament, doesn't really get that much traction, still growing that. Totally down to, get you a pass if you find yourself out here. So I did. Bought myself, hotel, drove down, and did it for the purpose of saying, hey, I'm going to do this for you guys. If you can give me a pass, then let's talk about what could happen in the future. And from that, I was able to get a gig through MLG again to shoot for a Call of Duty tournament in Las Vegas. And unfortunately, that's where that part of the story ends, because they put me in a role that I don't think they needed. And I think there's just kind of a, let's just try somebody here and see if it's something that we can benefit from. And it really didn't work out. So it kind of fizzled out, and me with it. But I think that was very much the first step to say, hey, I can talk to people. I can make these connections. I can put myself in a big stage and show myself good, show myself well. So then it just was very much, okay, let's network, let's keep on the grind, let's keep growing the craft, let's keep trying new things, fall flat on our face as often as we can now, so that way when the right person comes along, that'll happen. So fast forward about 2 years ago, networking with some people locally, wanting to get myself out there a little bit. So I find a few networking events, following some people more locally, just to kind of grow my base locally. And had this guy Q, one of our co-founders, following me, and we were messaging back and forth. He liked my work, not really any fit, but kept me there. And I was just like, okay, well, let's see where this can go. So I told him, I'm going to this event. He said he's going too. Met up. He asked me, all these really weird questions at the time. Like, boy, that's really weird to ask for the first time. Stuff like, do you want to be the man or work for the man, or just like stuff like that. I'm just like, okay, sir, I just met you. Can we have some sort of conversation? But asking these questions, and then eventually it just became a point where he's like, LinkedIn just came out with video. I want you to try it out. I'm telling all these people to try LinkedIn video, give it a shot. So we recorded a video and posted immediately overnight, 5,000 views, 250 likes, 150 comments. And that's something I never had gotten on any other platform. And this is me on LinkedIn with no followers, no connections, literally nothing. I posted maybe like a YouTube video link in the past, and it got a like from me and somebody I went to high school with or something, like something stupid. And I did it again and again and again and again. And 90 days straight, I made LinkedIn content. And then he comes to me and he's like, I've told probably, a couple dozen people to do this. And the most I've seen somebody do is like 7 days. It's like, nobody's ever done what you've done. Let's work together. I have this idea. Let's do it. Here
okay. That is so cool. Now, before I continue into the future, or the present, let's talk about that LinkedIn video. What is going on there? Like, cause I didn't even know you could do video on LinkedIn.
Yeah. So it just actually released, that would be probably about 2.5 years ago, year and a half ago. No, definitely 2.5 years ago. And it's, like it is any other platform. It's just upload a video, put some copy to it, and out it goes. Now it's cool because it's one of those things where, YouTube videos are very edited and, purpose driven, if you will, or trying to be too clickbaity, or, there's kind of some underlying reason behind a lot of YouTube videos. Whereas LinkedIn, it's so much of it just being, I'm going to take my phone, I'm going to record this piece of advice, out to my network it goes, because it is very much a professionals network. It's where the money is. It's where money, changes hands more often than it is on Instagram, YouTube, Twitter, stuff like that. So it's really a great place to be still, I would say, even now, because you can literally just pop your phone out, record some advice, record who you are, record what's going on in your life, what you're doing within your business, put it out to your network, and immediately you're going to have all of these people. And the beautiful thing about it is if I comment on your video, all of my connections are going to see it. So the way it works is by engaging other people's content, you're starting to kind of branch it out like a tree, right? So then somebody else comments from my connections on your video, well, then their second connection see it. So then that's your third connection. So it's kind of like this awesome branching tree where it's like, if it snowballs and rolls, it's going to really roll.
Absolutely. I'm going to dig into this because I want anybody listening to this to know exactly how to do this. Like, what kind of stuff would you recommend making? Like, kind of hashtags? How does this whole work? I understand it's a lot like every other platform, but a lot of people I know, especially in the gaming space, don't use LinkedIn at all. It's the professional network, and they don't consider themselves professionals, despite the fact I found hundreds and thousands of gamers on there.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's the beautiful place to be, especially for a gamer. And I know I've gotten a little bit off track to the gaming side of the show, but I think it's a beautiful place for gamers to be because it is, one, a place where decision makers are. So if you are trying to get yourself in the industry in any capacity, there's going to be people there that you can connect with. And even if it isn't something that happens right away, just keeping in their messages, keeping engaged in their content, keeping the name in the front of their mind, eventually you're going to be able to say, hey, I see that you need help with this. I know somebody, or I am that somebody that can do this. Boom, done. You're already in. So it's a beautiful place. And video wise, like, it's very much something I always say everybody's first video should be, hey, here's who I am. Here's what I do. here's what I'm looking to get out of this network or out of, my next year goals, whatever that looks like. Who are some people that I should connect with? Leave them down in the comments, and then get a couple people to, tag some friends and whatnot. And then boom, your network starts to grow. And that's just a great way, tag somebody who encourage you to make the video, because then typically they can comment and they might have a connection base that can help bring those people in. So it's kind of one of those things like that. But hashtagging is something that I think is very interesting on LinkedIn, because they're building it a little bit differently. So it isn't like put 30 hashtags on this photo and you're going to get garnered attention on all these hashtags, right? It's very much a build yourself a hashtag, live in that hashtag, so that it is something that if I want to say, watch every video from somebody, I can either, so for me, for instance, like my nickname is Dids, that's my hashtag. So every piece of content I put on LinkedIn, I hashtag Dids. So if you don't want to come to my profile and see all of my content, you can just search hashtag Dids. All of my content is going to be there. So it's very much a discovery platform, less of trying to get the attention and more of keeping the attention in the right place.
Got it. Oh, that's incredible. And you just discovered this yourself 2 years ago when somebody came along and asked you if you were doing it. So
somebody actually encouraged me to do it. Yeah. And I'm just like, I've been making YouTube videos forever. Talking in front of a camera is nothing to me. What the heck? I'll try it.
Like, I'll probably make my first one today and I'll tag you.
Do it. Absolutely.
Oh, I absolutely will. Before we go on, like you made the point that someone encouraged you to do this. I want to know, how important do you think mentors are in your growth throughout your career?
I think it's been incredible, actually. So I would say from the gaming side, I don't think that I can say that I had one. It was very much me just connecting with people and very much me just trying things out, asking for, advice, which I guess is kind of a mentorship, but I can't say that I had like a mentor, if that makes sense. So it was very much, mentorship by committee, if you will. But, moving into the business side, I had never started business. So I don't know anything about running a business, anything like that. So when we started the company, I was like, all right, well, I can make things look good. You're going to have to teach me the rest. So it was very much, using our other co-founders as mentors for, Q is very good in strategy, in sales, in communication, team building, that sort of thing. Our other co-founder, Izzy's very good at sales, talking to people, networking, that sort of thing. And then our other co-founder, Brema, is one of the most creative human beings on the planet. So very much him and I were kind of molding into one style, which you could kind of start to see as our content grew a little bit, how that was developing. So it was really cool in that sense.
Very cool. Okay, so tell us more about what you do, Urban Misfits.
Yeah, so we are a storytelling company. That's kind of what the layman's term is for us. We wanted to start as a YouTube series that we would get sponsors for, to say, hey, you're really cool, let's do a video series on you. And we started to realize pretty quickly that, that isn't going to be a good business model. So we started to say, okay, well, let's look at whether it's a business that needs help building content for a product that they're trying to sell or a story that they're trying to tell. We're very much less of a, hey, we're going to make this piece of content that you can use to gain sales, and more so we're going to make this piece of content that gets people inspired and gets people to want to come to you whenever it is that they need something from you. So it's less of a direct sale, one and done sort of thing, and more of a, let's build that relationship between you and your audience, so that anytime they need something, they know exactly where you are, exactly what you're about, and that bridge is already gapped or already connected. So it's very much a very simple process. We also work with individuals on a brand acceleration level. So if it is something where, hey, I don't know what LinkedIn strategy I should be doing, we can also help with stuff like that.
Fantastic. So speaking on the brand, how important is a brand in order to even get started doing this type of marketing?
It's really important. The blessing and the curse of the company so far is that I would say the blessing is our personal brands have done most of the selling. The curse is that now we have to flip the script to say, okay, now the company needs to do the selling, which it is. And very much, we've had raving reviews from clients that we've worked with that have been great for referrals and stuff like that. But it is very much a thing where, on the social media side, we have to say, okay, let's build the story and the brand to then start to sell stuff, so that we can, we've been very hesitant to post client pieces because we want to give the client, that initial post, that initial attention, right? So now we're starting to backlog some of that stuff, or take behind the scenes stuff, or just a couple extra steps here and there that we're really going to start to build out our company social media accounts to say, hey, you can come here and see everything that we do as well, and then shoot us an email.
Okay, so what is your specific role then? You're the chief creative officer.
Yeah, so being a small company, being a startup, I can say very truthfully that we all wear a lot of different hats. But generally speaking, what I should be most of the time doing is, building out the marketing plan, seeing it through, building out the content that the company can use to grow and gain leads and, have those things come through the funnel. Also, just working on set with clients. And, I typically am filming all of our LinkedIn Brand Accelerator clients, having those relationships. So, because I am familiar with LinkedIn, so it is very helpful to be on set with those clients and say, hey, we have this topic. What if we spin it like this? Or what if this is how you lead into blank? So it is really cool to be on set and do those things and also edit those videos as well. But also just being one of two creatives on staff, it's very much if it's a big client piece. Last week, for instance, 3 of the 5 days were full day shoots. So it's very much all hands on deck sort of situation. So I could be, most of the week or all of the week in some cases out shooting for commercial client pieces as well.
Okay, so you get 3 or 4 hours of sleep a night then?
Yeah, 2 if I'm lucky.
Oh, that's crazy. No, you have to be busy. It sounds like you're doing fantastic.
Yeah, it's actually been really crazy lately. We did well, as we started, and obviously the fact that we're still here is awesome news, and the fact that we're on an upward trend is even better news. But I think we survived, and then eventually we were just like, are we going to make this company survive, or are we going to make this company to make an impact? And I think all of us, without even really having like a meeting to say like, hey, let's start like really doing this thing, we kind of just all kicked it into third gear and just up everything went. Quality of work, number of clients, all of that just suddenly like exploded for us. And it's been really cool and hectic and absolutely busy as all get out, but I wouldn't have it any other way.
Yeah, let's go back, because what you were just describing, that whole, you guys kicked it into higher gear. That's, as a business coach, my first thought is mindset. But is that what happened? You guys kind of changed your mind and decided you need to be bigger, or how did that work through for you mentally?
I think it was for the sales side, that mentality, kind of as you were alluding to, but I think from another side, since I'm more so in the creative side, it's very much how can we organize everything? How can we have better communication within our own work as well as with our clients? And what processes can we put in place that can take what we're doing now and make it easier to sell, but also easier to execute on, so that not only are we going to be able to garner more leads, but have a better success with those leads and clients so that they retain and potentially even refer to more.
Fantastic. So I actually have a catchphrase here on the show. It's organization is the enemy of sloth. Now, what do you think about that?
I think this is going to be maybe a weird answer, but I already said that I'm a 32 on the scale of weirdness, so we might fit in just right. But I think organization is what creates the sloth. And
Really?
what I mean by that is life gets easier when you slow it down and when you organize it. And I think what's crazy is you see this hustle mindset and 80 hours a week. And I subscribe to it if I have to. If something needs to be done, I'm going to do it. There's no question about that. But if I'm caught up, I'm organized, I'm doing all these things, I don't find myself spending as much time at work and working, because I'm able to say, yeah, everything's right where it needs to be. Everything's edited. I don't have to shoot anything until next week, Tuesday, whatever that looks like. Everything's in place and in right where it needs to be, so that I can become the sloth and go and play some Dane Heroes of the Storm.
I love it. Okay. You've just kind of taken me on a wild ride on this interview. I was not expecting to have a guru in front of me.
That's exactly what I was hoping for.
So let me do this. Let me ask you something that you've told me all about your success, all the things you've done well in life. I'd like to humble you for a second if I can. And ask you, what is something that you have failed at?
I would say the number one thing that I always say, and I'm okay saying this because it is definitely a selfish thing, but I don't take care of myself. And I think that that's something that I learned very quickly. So year one, within the company, my dad was diagnosed with cancer. He's doing fine. He had a full, he's in remission now. So, we're very thankful for that. But I feel like it was very much a thing where right away it's okay, well, you're starting a company. You don't have a source of income unless you make it, so it's very much falling on your face the first months, the first years to say, okay, how do we do that? And then you add on the struggles of that with, okay, now you have family issues that you have to take care of. Then you have, at the time that I made the leap, if you will, I was in the process of filing for the K-1 visa with my now wife. So that was also something that we're going through. And, we file the paperwork and they say, all right, we'll let you know in 9 to 12 months if it's going to be good or not. And it's just like, you're waiting on those things. So with all of those things happening at once, I was always the last thing that came in that line of importance. My health deteriorated, my cardio deteriorated. I would, I can't say like gained weight or anything, but I could feel that my body was like breaking down. And I'm very much a person that if I'm stressed on a Tuesday, I'll feel it on a Thursday or a Friday. So I could see all of these things and just, being short of breath walking up the stairs or just not being, present in the moment. That would be always what I go to as like the biggest failure, and something that I'm still trying to come back from. I'm very much now cognizant of how much sleep am I getting? Do I need to take some time and meditate? Do I need to, focus on what goes into my meals? Like that's all stuff that now I'm thinking of and being conscious of so that I can take what's already good and make it better, because I'm going to be in a better place to make everything else better. And everybody else on the team sees it. If one person's struggling, everybody's struggling. So it's very much you have to take care of you in order to be able to take care of everybody else.
Okay, thank you for sharing that. Now, let's go back full circle a little bit. When we first started, you told me that when you grew up, you were kind of that awkward kid. Do you still feel like that awkward kid, or are the people you hang out with also gamers and you're able to relate with them?
Some are, some aren't. Yeah, it's really cool. One of our co-founders, Brema, hasn't probably touched a video game in his life. He was born in Sudan and came over as a refugee from that area. So he really didn't have much, in terms of electronics, video games, that sort of thing. So we, Q and I and Izzy play Apex here and there together, but we talked around about it. He's like, I don't know what you guys are talking about, So yes and no, I would say is the short answer to that.
Fantastic. All right. So I want you to take you back mentally for about, we'll say 7, 8, 9 years when you were first getting started on this path. When you were first like considering doing the machinima and the videos. And if you could go back and you could talk to little Eric, and you go, little Eric, you need to do X, Y, and Z in order to get to where I am, 5 years faster. What would you say?
I would say the most important thing is to just keep doing. The one thing that I like about what I did to get to this point is I spent every moment that I wasn't working doing something that I loved. And because I was doing that something that I loved, I'm able to be where I am today. And that's weird because back then I wasn't thinking, okay, I'm done with work. I've got, what is the 5 to 9, you've got the 9 to 5 and then the 9, the 5 to 9 in your side hustle, if you will. And I didn't very much think of it as a side hustle. It was just doing what I loved. It became a side hustle, obviously, which is now the main hustle, but it was very cool to just be in that process. So I would say don't stop. I would say organize. I would say don't lose your health, because I was super fit. I mean, I was able to do 20-minute 5Ks. I was doing Tough Mudders. I was lifting every day. I mean, I was like coming out of high school in tip-top shape, and that just plummeted right down to the bottom after high school. So I would say definitely maintain the health, organize yourself, organize what your content is, and just keep doing.
Okay. Now, say there's somebody who you maybe want to be following in your footsteps. What advice would you have for them to be able to get to where you are?
I would say a lot of same things, and that's very true to, I guess, how I'm projecting my life is very much take care of yourself, know why you're doing what you're doing. Don't like, for me right now, I'm very much just kind of making a bunch of content, testing out carousel posts, testing all these things, but I'm purposely testing to see what works and sticks and what doesn't work and stick. I'm using this time in this space to learn Instagram and the hashtags, and learn LinkedIn and consistency within posting and engaging, and YouTube as well. So test. Just because a piece of content doesn't go big today doesn't mean that it isn't the start of something that you can gain consistent traction on in the future.
Beautiful.
If you're posting about who you are and what you love, I don't think you can ever find failure.
Okay. Now I want to, what about carousel posts? Like why are those so cool?
I think it's cool for me because I get to go back into a little bit of that college graphic design, and I just kind of like tinkering in a sense,
like making
in that
a lot
way.
Of pictures.
Yeah, basically. But yeah, I think it's a great way to educate. And I think that now free education is being valued highly across social media.
Okay. This has been a fantastic interview. I really appreciate it, Eric. How do people find you? How do they get a hold of you? Like, where are you out on social media?
Yeah, so at didslive, didslive, anywhere will be me personally. The company, we have Urban Misfit Ventures, also MKE Misfits. We're out of Milwaukee, so the MKE Nomer as well. But yeah, that's really it. urbanmisfitventures.com. I would say to go to my personal website, but I haven't updated since before I started the company, so probably don't go find that. But most definitely, that's going to be where you can find me.
Wonderful. All right, now as we wrap up, is there anything I didn't ask you think we still need to talk about?
Let's just say what are you looking forward to with this podcast?
What am I looking forward to this podcast? So I have one major goal with this, and that goal is, when I was growing up, I was probably a lot like you. I was actually more or less raised by babysitters. My parents lived 2 hours away from their job, and they both had the same job in San Francisco, and I lived 2 hours away. So it was 4 hours commute each day plus 8 hours of work. I didn't really see my parents too much. And when I did get to see them, they would buy me video games and kind of just let me be myself. But as I grew up, I was told that I was lazy, that I was unmotivated, that I was, going to end up like one of those people, like whatever that meant. It was just, and so I developed this inferiority about myself, even though I've had some great accomplishments. I was a court administrator at age 26 of a county court. I was a partner at a law firm, at a 28-year-old law firm at age 27. And I built a firm with my wife, and we made a lot of money. We did all these things. And the entire time, I still felt that I was lazy. And after, my kind of history, I became a business coach, and I got some great clients. And at some point, I realized I wasn't happy because I was dealing with people who didn't understand me. Like you and I, like we could probably chat all day long about Roller Coaster Tycoon, but I could not have that kind of conversation with my clients. They just didn't get me. And so talking to my own coach said, well, you need to work with people you love, and I love gamers. So I started getting into this field, and the first thing I realized is most gamers, and kind of just generally, don't know anything about business. They don't know anything about business. They don't know anything about sales. They don't know anything about marketing. So my goal for this podcast is to get people on like yourself who can give that advice. So you've got gamer cred. You're a streamer, or you had a stream at some point, but you've also been a content creator for a long time, and you're doing very well yourself. So people will see you and realize that, hey, I can do it too because he's just like me.
I love that. And I wanted to ask something like that because I think that flipped the script, and I saw the passion from you.
Thank you.
And I think that is why I wanted to be on this, because I think that, I started a podcast that is no longer a thing that I wanted to do as a Twitch thing called Gamers Guide to Business, because I absolutely agree with you. Like, there's so many people that are on Twitter right now, on Instagram right now, 13, 14, 15, 16, that think that because they get 18 kills in a game means that, they're going to be the next hot thing. And there's so much more to that. There's so much more about professionalism, about the business side of things, about gaining those sponsorships, maintaining those sponsorships, fulfilling things within those sponsorships, whatever that, there's so, there's
I love
so
people
much
selling merch. They've got a website, they sell merch.
Right.
That's it.
Yeah. And I remember being that person too. And I'm just like, and why, like, why aren't people going and buying the thing?
So yeah, it's my goal to get amazing guests on this podcast to be able to give that kind of advice, because when I went to law school, so I was hardcore gamer myself up right until law school. So I basically skipped most of my classes in college to play World of Warcraft. And then I went to law school and it stopped, hard stop. Couldn't play for at least 3 years while I was in school. And then I went into business and I had all this, business I had to do. I didn't have time for gaming. So nearly 10 years went by and I'm finally getting back into it. And I don't have that cred that a lot of guys like you do.
Oh man, I've got zero cred when it comes to the highest achievement I probably have within gaming is getting Lich King down to about 30% when it was like live, and that was the raid to be. And that's probably as close to fame as I ever got.
Horde or Alliance?
I'm both. I like both. So I'm very upset. And again, we could talk about as far as Battle for Azeroth should have been nothing more. It should have been nothing that it is. If you want my opinion, the PvE should have been 2 different raid sets, one for Horde, one for Alliance. Because if you're going to have this concept of the battle for Azeroth and you're pitting the Horde against the Alliance, you're not doing that within PvE if both are fighting the same enemy.
Yeah.
Consequently, this whole PvP side of it, I feel like they thought that, oh yeah, just turn on war mode and then you can fight anybody anywhere. But you get extra experience if you're not fighting anybody anywhere. I'm questing to get the quest done. I'm not questing and going around town to find and gank other people, right? So I feel like they missed the mark on that. And I feel like Legion was probably more of what they should have been. And I'm looking forward to Shadowlands. But like I feel Burning Crusade and Lich King were the highlights.
Absolutely the high points. That's right.
I'm excited for Shadowlands because they're going to let you level in any expansion, essentially. So they're going to reduce the level cap, I think, down to 60 again. I could be wrong, but they're basically saying once you hit level 10 and you're out of your starting zone, you get to pick what expansion you level within, and then it scales to make it work. So I'm going to Northern all day long. Every character, I'm totally in on that.
I would do that myself if I didn't already have a max level. Well, max level back in Legion. I stopped playing in Legion. So
yeah.
Every class 100 already. What am I gonna do?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
All right.
So then, Horde Alliance for you, and then what class? And then I'll let you.
I always will be Alliance. Just never really cared for the Horde side. I have a couple Horde characters, but I never got into the story. The Alliance always felt like the good guys.
Yeah.
And my class was Warrior Tank. I've been a tank since I started playing MMOs back in Final Fantasy 11.
Mm-hmm.
So main tank. I always end up the main tank no matter what guild I'm in. I just happen to be that good.
Hey, that is your cred, right? Like that is absolutely your cred.
Oh yeah. I wrote a book on it, The Warcraft of Business. I don't know if you can find it on Amazon because when you type in Warcraft, all Warcraft stuff comes up.
Yeah. But Rock on.
I'll send you a copy. Yeah.
Yeah, please. That would be awesome. I'll definitely take a read of it.
Sweet. All right, Eric. I really genuinely appreciate this interview. This has been fantastic. And hopefully people paid attention because you dropped some major knowledge bombs in here.
I'll have to listen to it because I don't even think I realized that.
All right. Well, I'm going to say, Gamerpreneurs, listen to Eric. He gave some amazing advice, and you all take it easy. Hey, if you like this podcast, I'd love to invite you to check out a little bit more about me, Dr. Bradford Carlton, Gamerpreneur. If you go to my website, www.thegamerpreneur.com/bonus, I'm going to give you a free copy of my book, The Warcraft of Business, where I explain my history in both gaming and business and how I brought the two together in order to create some very successful companies and help a lot of people. And all you got to do is pay for shipping and processing, and I'll send you this book. I absolutely know you're going to love it. All right, you all take it easy.